Brad Sherman at a hearing, very anti-Bitcoin, anti-crypto, wanting to ban it, regulate it literally to death. And the crypto community, the Bitcoin community reached out to me and asked me my stance. And I said, well, I'm not for banning Bitcoin. Why would Brad be for that? And out of all the things they working on in Congress, like, why is that a priority? I couldn't wrap my mind around that. And so we went back and looked at the legalities of it, the FEC compliance, and we realized that we could absolutely accept Bitcoin. And we just had to do the accounting aspect of it a very specific way, which we're happy to do, because I think it is important to promote innovation. I think it is important to find different ways to fundraise for a campaign so you can get the most out of your percentage. Like, for example, through Act Blue, 4% of a contribution we lose, but through the Lightning Network, it's only 1%. So that really allows a teacher like me to go up against a 25-year incumbent, right? So it really is awesome. And then I also think that, like what we said earlier, it is the jobs of the future. I think it's going to be as big as the internet. And so that's kind of how and why I support it. But I also hold Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's great. We need people like that in Congress who are, especially, I think, one of the reasons is it's also generational. I mean, we have so many 75 and 80-year-olds in Congress and in positions of power, including our last two presidents, that I think it's really time that we have more young people, more millennials, and coming into the force and understanding this thing, because this is going to take off with or without us. So might as well be with us. Might as well be with American backing.
And that's the other thing that I fear, is that something like we touched on something that's super innovative. And it would be a shame if we did not keep it in the United States. And I don't know if people are aware, but like this was the same thing that happened with the internet, and there was a lot of skepticism around the internet and the advancement of it. And now look where we are today.
How do you feel about term limits?
I am for term limits 100%. I think that we need to make sure that we prevent corruption, that people cannot just go term after term, do nothing, and just think that seats theirs. And I think it allows for new ideas, new voices to be offered and presented. I think what I'm playing around with is either we could do 4 or 3 4-year terms, so that's 12 years, and then if we did it that way, then you won't have to worry about the re-election every 2 years. Right now, I think it's like members of Congress every 2 years. Instead, it's like 6 years. So at least you can sit in that seat for a little bit longer, not have to worry about re-election. So you can really try to dig your heels in and get things passed and done, and then just run for a re-election 3 times total. And then the Senate seat, it could be maybe 3 6-year terms. So once you leave Congress, then you go for a Senate or be a part of the administration or something. But I don't think that anyone should die on that seat. Like Grassley from Iowa, by the time he finishes his next term, he's going to be 99 years old. 99 years old.
It's unbelievable. Well, how does he know anything about what's going on in the real world at 99? Especially when you've been in Washington, D.C. for 40 years or something? It's like you're so disconnected from what's going on for your constituents, the rest of the country. And I think the term limits really just this could be a real bipartisan thing. And I hope that as the younger generations take more and more power in Congress on both the left and the right and the independents, that we can get it. Because if you see the polls, it's like 90% of Americans support term limits. And
Americans, everyday people. Yeah, Americans and everyday people support it, but the reason why politicians don't support it is because it's a career for them. And see, for me, it's like I genuinely want to make a difference. I genuinely care about these things. And if I only did 5 to 6 terms or something, I can go back to being a teacher and be completely content, because I love being a teacher. I love teaching, right? So this is not like I have no other aspirations other than just like really fighting for these things. I'm in a place in my life where I can run for office, so I'm choosing to do that. But that's the problem that I have with these people, is that it's about them. It's not about the people that they're supposed to be representing. And you didn't even talk about this. I think it's important, coupled with this, is where politicians get their money. That also indicates who they're trying to represent.
I mean, 12 years is enough. Our country was founded based on this idea of citizen representatives. You'd go, you'd serve your country for a few years, and you come back and you'd be a farmer or whatever. That's how our country was structured. And to have people in office for 40 years, 50 years, staying into their 80s and 90s. I mean, this is not how it's supposed to work. This is why you have corruption. This is why you have out-of-touch people. And I really hope that, again, this has to be a bipartisan thing, that people really push for this. And I think if and when you're elected and you make this a center point of your tenure, I think it would really serve you. And so many people want this. The other thing is, I saw John Ossoff, and here's another bipartisan thing. So he's a Democrat. John Ossoff sponsored a bill limiting the ability of people in Congress to trade individual stocks, which I think is something that we can all pretty much agree on. The fact that you have this essentially insider information of these big companies, and then you can front run that by placing trades, I think is absolutely ridiculous. What do you feel about that?
I am happily on the record saying that if that were to pass the Senate, I would absolutely support in the House, and or I'm happy to write a similar bill and introduce it through the House and let it get passed into the Senate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's excellent. Question on the homelessness issue in California. What do you see as the solutions to that?
So I have a few. I think we need to address the foster care system and fix that. I think we need massive reform. I think that we need to really look closely at a universal basic income. And so I know within the crypto Bitcoin space, there's like this notion of like printing money, but we went through the federal budget and we found that there is a way to pay for it without printing any money. And that means that what we would do is we would get rid of the current federal programs that are proving not to be successful and replace it with either $500 to $750 universal basic income. And then that would address the fact that when people, that we have a lot, 75% of people live paycheck to paycheck, and they're a bill away from financial ruin, which puts them into poverty. And so that would solve that. It would prevent problems. I'm kind of coming from the space of we need to not just throw money at it, band-aids at it, but we really have to fix the systems of where it's coming from. And if the current systems in place, the social safety nets, are not pulling people out of poverty, then we need to try something different. And then also, I think if we fix our education system and not, again, promote trade schools, different occupations, I think that would be advantageous.
With respect to the universal basic income, I'm still sort of undecided on how I feel about that myself. Would it be a situation where if we were able to do it, that we could get rid of a lot of the sort of social welfare state bureaucracy and just give money directly to the people?
Right. That's what people don't realize, is that we're spending millions and millions of dollars just on the administration aspect of it. But if you, and that's what comes with all the programs, but if we got rid of all of that, went to a different way of having a different social safety, I like to think it's a social safety net without holes in it, then you just give everybody direct cash. They do with it what they want to do with it. And then, because everyone's situation is very differently. And every single UBI trial has proven time and time again to pull people out of poverty. The child tax credit reduced child poverty by half. Even when I spoke with Jack Dorsey, we were in agreement that UBI is a solution. He has given $5 million to a UBI pilot, right? So there is a space for that. And then if you have like something like Bitcoin, a different way of, you're not manipulating, but a way of a different approach to finance. I think that is where we can start to see people flourish, live in dignity, have sovereignty over their lives.